Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking out the Indy Handshake Wrestling Podcast. I'm Paul Ponte, and I'm joined today by Danny Limelight. Danny, how are we doing today?
What's good, brother? I'm doing great, man. How are you? I'm happy to be here.
I am fantastic. I'm excited to get you on because you've lived, you're only, 28 years old?
28 years old. Yes, sir.
28 years old. You already lived a very colored life. You're a Marine, trained at SoCal Pro, Marine wrestler, actor, stuntman, writer, producer. What don't you do?
I don't wrestle for SoCal Pro.
There you go. But you trained there, right?
I started there in 2014. It lasted about 7 months, and then it was off to the races.
Yep. I also read that you did some stuff with Santino Brothers.
I did. Yeah, I've been very fortunate enough to train with Los Luchas a few times at their Lucha classes. I've done some training with Eli Everfly, and then I've had some one-on-ones with Jake Atlas.
Very nice. And I also, unless I'm incorrect here, on another podcast, I might have heard you talk about working with Little Cholo as well.
Yes, Little Cholo and Mariachi Loco. I give them the most credit for the training because I got to do a lot of one-on-ones with them on a weekly basis over in Anaheim. And they're two amazing luchadors that have a really good mindset for the game, and they definitely helped me elevate mine. And then more recently, being able to work with John Morrison and Damian Sandow.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm a little bit older than you. And when I would go down to SoCal, I love whenever I see Little Cholo in matches in random places down there. I see him and B-Boy and a bunch of other guys who guys I loved on the indie
Amazing
scene.
Dudes, great wrestlers, great mindset for the game, great at educating the youth, and by youth I mean the up and coming wrestlers. And I also got to do some one-on-ones with Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy as well. We train at the Gymnastic Olympias together and work on strikes and moves and things like that and setups and stuff. So I've been a student of the game and been able to like reach out to a bunch of different people and just work with them, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do now. I feel like, back in the day, if you could be a wrestler and be just a brawler. You could be a wrestler and be just a technical guy. You could be just a high flyer. But now it's kind of like you have to know a little lucha. You don't have to know a little strong style. You got to know a little everything. Otherwise, you're kind of limited in the ring,
Yeah, you want to be a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, exactly. So I mentioned before you were in the Marines. So when you're training, I did a little bit of training. I got washed out up in NorCal at Pro Wrestling Iron. But one thing I did notice is there was tons of people in the class. It was a vast array of different people, different shapes, different sizes, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When you're coming from the Marines, a hard-hitting training, it's no secret. And you go there, are you kind of like, oh, I thought there would be a lot more people maybe ready for this, and whereas you were kind of a little bit more ready than others?
So, for me, being a Marine Corps drill instructor and making Marines, putting people through that training that I went through over the years and having 10 years of experience under my belt with the military is just, I was always in amazing shape. Even as a kid, I would, do parkour and run through the streets and get myself into all types of trouble. But I played sports and I boxed and I did basketball and baseball, so I had to be in shape. The transition to wrestling training is very different. It's not like basketball. It's not like baseball. It's not like the Marine Corps. It takes its own toll on your body. And but I definitely did feel like I was way more prepared than a lot of the guys that I was training with. And a lot of the guys washed out. And even over the years, like seeing people not being able to stay in shape, or even more recently during this quarantine, watching people gain weight, and not trying to make anybody look bad or anything like that. But it's staying in shape is a mental thing, and wanting to stay fit and stuff like that is something you have to challenge yourself to do. It's a discipline. And I feel like the Marine Corps definitely did give me that discipline, and it definitely enhanced it than what I already had. And so it made the training for wrestling a lot easier. Not that it was easy, just it was easier for me than others.
Yeah, I imagine, it kind of gives you that leg up, and that's what, especially in something as grueling as wrestling training can be. And like you said, needing that determination, obviously that's going to be a big help, but you still got to work at it. You still got to grind. It's all, it's not
100%.
Yeah. And so as far as, now you're doing the acting, writing, producing, all that stuff. Were you already planning on doing that before wrestling, or was wrestling the thing that kind of got you into wanting to do acting?
So since I was a kid, like I wanted to be a wrestler and an actor. Like I wanted that kind of life. I wanted that, and a kid from New York, Puerto Rican, snot-nosed street rat brat, like that wasn't an option, like I didn't know what independent wrestling was. I only knew WCW and WWF, um, I didn't know how to get to Hollywood when all I knew was how to take the train from Brooklyn to Bushwick, like that's all I knew. And when I joined the Marine Corps at 17 and it put me in all the right places and I met all the right people, first came the wrestling. And then with the wrestling, um, I generated some kind of buzz with the Year of the Spider, and Marvel had emailed me to come out for their stunt show. So my first audition, I had never done anything with acting or stunts, but my first audition was with Marvel, and I met my ex there, and she kind of showed me the ropes and brought me into the stunt world, and then stunt bled over into acting. And I already have always felt like I've always had charisma, and I've always been very good with my mouthpiece and things like that. And so you know not that wrestling is fake or anything like that, but it's kind of like acting. You're portraying a character, a gimmick, and you have to live by it. And when you grab the microphone and you talk, you have to believe the words that come out your mouth. And that's all acting really is. It's living truthfully under imaginary circumstances. And so wrestling bled to stunts, stud bled into acting, and I've always been a good writer. And so I started writing my own projects, and then Limelight Productions came about, and I started producing my own films, and just been grinding, baby.
Yeah, that's. Do you have any? What projects are you working on right now? Maybe put that out in the world so that people can look forward to that.
So we just finished a movie with John Morrison or John Hennigan called Speed of Time. It got pushed back because of the quarantine, but I did all the stunts in that movie. I played the King of the Time Borgs, which are the villains in the film, and I got to do some pretty badass stunts. I'm super grateful for John. He pulled me in. We were training at wrestling. I told him I did stunts. He told me he was working on a film and he kind of needed somebody to go over pre-visuals, like fight scenes and stuff like that. And I told him that I had a pretty good brain for it. We went to, Jam, which is like this gym here for stunts and stuff like that and training. And we went over like the fight stuff for the film. And he showed the director and everybody what he wanted to do. And they were going to be shooting in Florida. And so he was like, well, instead of hiring a whole bunch of different people out there, why don't we just bring the people that know it already and help me come up with it or help me work with it? And he brought me out there, full paid trip. I got paid good, and I love that man. I love that man. He's one of the best people in the world, and he kind of really gave me my real big, not big break, but gave me the real foot in the door with some kind of credibility into the stunt community and becoming SAG eligible. And then so after that, I just started writing more. And my first film that I really wrote was called TNT. It was a female boxing film. We shot that. I coordinated all the stunts, directed, produced, acted in it. And then since then, I've done a couple fight scenes that I put together. Just keeping my fight skills on par with film. I wrote a horror film called Sunny, which was a short film for my daughter where she's possessed by a doll. She did really good on that. And then I wrote a film called Above the Line, which we just finished shooting. It's in post-production now. And this week we'll be shooting a film about human sex trafficking called 207, which is the code for a kidnapping or sex trafficking. And I have 4 other scripts lined up. And as soon as we're done shooting this one this week, we're going to be pushing over into them. And, one of them is it's my own take on John Wick. It's called Joe Riv. And it's going to be just a badass action film about a veteran that supposedly died 3 years ago, but comes back to avenge his brother's death. So it's going to be a whole bunch of shooting and knives and fighting and badass stuff. And then the other 3, I kind of want to keep to myself right now until we get the ball full in motion. But one of them is a very big project that we're going to shoot a short film for, and we're going to push out to crowdfund a 9-episode series.
Nice. You're going to shoot a proof of concept?
Yes, sir. Just kind of similar to Code 8. Have you seen Code 8 on Netflix?
Yeah.
With Stephen Amell and Robbie Amell, they shot like a 10-minute episode, 10-minute short, and they funded $2 million and was able to push out an awesome movie. I don't know if we'll be able to generate $2 million, but I think that if we can crowdfund 50 to 100K, which seems very possible with the kind of project this is and the community we have, I believe that we'll be able to shoot an awesome 9-episode series. And actually, I could talk about it a little bit just to give you a rundown. It's going to be about stunt people. And basically, a stunt team is going to rob Hollywood. And so
very nice.
The vibes is Ocean 11 and Now You See Me vibes. So it's going to be, we just want to bring light into the stunt community and action actors because we do a lot. And I don't know if you know, but there's no Oscar category for stunt coordinators or stunt people. And so we kind of just want to bring this to the world and show the world what we can do. And I wrote it myself. I've casted it myself. We have the Yellow Power Ranger attached to it, Liana Ramirez, the current Yellow Power Ranger, attached to it, and a bunch of other very talented people, you know. And so I'm just super excited for this one. It's going to be the big one, and I feel like this is going to be the project that really gets me out there.
Very nice. Yeah, I like that idea. And you're right about the I used to do a movie podcast. We would constantly talk about the fact that stunts don't get love in the Oscars.
Yep.
Which is, it's kind of ridiculous because
all the movies need some kind of stunt coordinator.
Yeah.
If there's a slap in a film, there has to be a stunt coordinator present, you know. And when you got movies like the Avengers, imagine the Avengers with no stunts, you know, or imagine, like, you know, the Joker with no stunts, you know, like all these films that win awards, they have stunts in it. You know, 1917 was full of stunts. Yep. How does a movie like that win all these awards but no recognition to the coordinator? You know, so it's a sad case, but I do believe that we're going in the right direction with it. And this project that I'm putting together it's a passion project, but it has value, it has meaning, and everybody that I have attached to it are all stunt actors, action actors. So we're not bringing in anybody else that doesn't do stunts, and we just want to tell an amazing story.
Very nice. We're definitely going to keep an eye out for that. Bringing that back a little bit, you mentioned the Avengers and stuff, and you mentioned before doing the Marvel audition. I know you're a big SpiderMan fan. You got the tattoo, you got the colored ring tights and everything.
Yes, sir.
So I got to say, you know, obviously you're a big SpiderMan fan, but how excited were you growing up a SpiderMan fan when Miles Morales came on the scene in comic books?
Man. Okay. So Peter Parker is no matter what, I will always say Peter Parker is my favorite Spider-Man. That's who I grew up on. That's who I love. But then, you know, Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider, kind of came into the scene, and I was like, oh, this guy is really cool. But when Miles Morales hit, you know, a Puerto Rican and black Spider-Man, and his suit was so different and so dope. He didn't have the classic red and blue. It was like the black and the red. It was just so much fun seeing something different, seeing someone of color coming out there with a Hispanic background as well, and just believing the same morals that Spider-Man believed in. And, you know, it gave us young bucks, you know, life, you know. It was like a new life into the character of Spider-Man, you know. And then Into the Spider-Verse came out, which is my favorite cartoon movie of all time.
Oh yeah.
And I'm excited for the new Spider-Man Miles Morales game that's coming out, because I love the Spider-Man game, you know, and just everything that the Spider-Man character stands for, whether it's Spider-Man like Peter Parker, or if it's Ben Reilly, or it's Miguel O'Hara, who's a Mexican Spider-Man that plays Spider-Man 2099, or we're talking Miles Morales. Like, there's just so many different characters, but I love how they're all different and unique, but still stand for the same thing. And I firmly believe in those morals.
Absolutely, yeah. And, you know, there's a lot of people who get all, you know, oh, they're trying to inject people of color into the ball, but it's like, hey, people of color exist, bro. Like,
yeah, like Black Lives Matter. All these people that feel like, oh, why are we doing this? Or why do we need representation of that? Like, why the fuck not? Excuse my language, but like, why not?
Of course.
Well, is it hurting you? No. So then why are you worried about it?
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to give people of color, kids of color. You know, my daughter, she's Puerto Rican and Mexican. She needs to see a movie like Coco in Disney that like shows a tradition of Hispanic heritage. You know, she needs to see that. You know, we need kids to see heroes that represent who they look like and go through the real same problems that they deal with. I think that's important. And people that don't agree, I feel like they just got messed up beliefs and morals.
Absolutely. Did you find any, I mean, it's a little bit, I was going to say if you found any difficulty, you know, trying to have that kind of moral as far as being a person of color in wrestling, but I mean, you did train in LA, which is a little more of a bubble of openness. So I don't know. Did you ever feel like you were getting any kind of raw deal? Like maybe traveling to other parts of the country, maybe you're like, I don't know if this dude would be talking to me like this.
Fortunately, I don't, no one has ever disrespected me, and maybe behind my back, but I don't respect that. That's people talk regardless. I don't care about that. But I've never dealt with a situation where somebody tried to disrespect me, and I don't know if it's because they look at me and they okay, he's probably not the guy, because I can be a loose cannon, you know. Actually, I had one fan try to get disrespectful one time, and I kind of like stooped to his level and got unprofessional and was like, all right. And I pressed him outside the arena, out of the venue, not the arena. We're not at arenas, but like I pressed him outside the venue, and he kind of like backed down afterwards. But I think that's the only time I ever dealt with a situation where I actually had to get buck. with somebody.
Well, it's a high stress. Eventually, you can't blame someone for getting, a little hot. It's
Yeah,
gonna happen.
yeah, it happens, but I don't really put myself in that situation. I don't think, and I think that like if I do rub people the wrong way, they kind of keep their distance. They don't talk to me. But and I hear like rumblings of, oh, this person said this. I don't play the he said she said game. If they
Yeah.
don't say it in my face, I don't respect it. And I don't acknowledge it.
Yeah, exactly. So I gotta say, big congratulations! You're gonna be on New Japan Pro Wrestling's new weekly show. It's called Lions Break Collision. How stoked are you for that? Did you think, like you said, kid grew up in Brooklyn? You think you're going to be featured on a global brand like New Japan Pro Wrestling at some point?
Brother, let me tell you something. I didn't know what independent wrestling was growing up. I knew WWF and WCW. When I found independent wrestling, I was open into like a whole new world of wrestling that I had to learn about and see. And when I got this opportunity, because I want to shout out Rocky Romero, who gave me the opportunity, man. Like amazing dude, love that man, and I was presented with this opportunity to go and showcase my talent to the world. Oh, goosebumps had came across me. I did the tryout and everything. He invited me out to the tryout. I had a good time at the tryout, good showing. Got to team with Mysterioso and Russell, the Regal twins, who are also great. So we just had a good chemistry in the ring, and the opportunity came across my desk or across the phone or however you want to word it. And I was excited, man. It felt so good. I called my dad. That was the first person I called was my dad, and he was excited for me. And then when I got to wrestle, because we actually filmed this already earlier this month for the stuff to air in July, and the people I got to wrestle, one of the like both guys I got to wrestle are awesome, but one in particular, man, he's one of the best in the world, and I was super grateful to step into the ring with him again and tear it up on such a huge platform and huge scale that I'm just grateful, man. It feels so good. It feels like all the hard work's finally paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked a little bit about growing up watching WWF, WWE, WCW, all that stuff. I've seen on other interviews that you mentioned, you grew up. The Rock was your favorite,
Man, yep.
wrestling and acting, all that stuff. And then I was a little confused because I saw your style and I was like, The Rock's his favorite. That's interesting. Like I see the swagger part, but then I saw that you mentioned the WCW cruiserweights, and I went, there it is.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah, I had the same experience. I would watch it, and I would watch guys like Ultimo Dragon, Psychosis, Rey Mysterio, and I was like, these dudes are the best. What is this? How have I never seen this before? Like when I first saw them, and obviously that's permeated into your style. How much, did you go into it thinking I'm going to wrestle like these guys?
So I think I knew that I wanted to have. Okay, so when I first made the Danny Limelight character, and don't laugh at me, but my image was The Miz mixed with Mayweather. Like
makes sense.
That's what I wanted, the arrogant, cocky, blah 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 blah. But then as I started going, I already knew that the reason why The Rock was a champion, the reason why The Rock was considered one of the best to ever do it, and is as successful as he is, was because of his promos, because of his charisma. Didn't matter if people think he's a good wrestler or not, because if you put The Rock on a flyer, he's main eventing WrestleMania. He's drawing the fans. And I knew it wasn't because of his wrestling abilities, if they want to say that, and I'm doing quotation marks, it's because he can draw, because he can talk, and he could sell people into seats.
He got an elbow drop over.
Yeah, exactly. And to do that, you have to be electrifying. You have to be charismatic. You have to be that good. And I knew that I wanted that. I knew that for me, the most important thing, and I'm not saying that wrestling isn't important, but I knew for me, I knew that I was charismatic. I knew that I can talk, and I knew that was going to be my forefront. That was where I was going to try to make my money off of, was being able to cut a promo, being able to talk, being able to make people want to see a match. The wrestling style, I was like, well, I don't really want to do the rock bottom. I don't want to do that's not my style. I knew that I was athletic, and I was like, okay, now if I'm thinking athleticism, who are the guys that I like to watch? Okay, I loved watching Rey Mysterio. I loved watching Eddie Guerrero. I loved watching John Morrison. I loved watching Jeff Hardy. Those guys put their body on the line. Shelton Benjamin. Just seeing these guys do all these awesome things with their body and seeing the reaction the crowd would give them. Now, if I could combine that with the Rock's electricity and I could put it together and make it me, that's what I wanted to do, And then as time grew on, like I started taking certain things out. I don't need to hurt I don't need to hurt myself this much because I want longevity. Now I know that. I know how to strike. I know how to fight. I know how to grapple. Now, even though I'm flying, let me start adding in more of me into this little puzzle that's Danny Limelight. and making all the pieces fit correctly. So now I'm trying to talk good. I'm trying to talk my smack and make people want to see me. I'm trying to, hi baby. I'm trying to like wrestle a little bit more, show people that I can do the technical wrestling, but then I still want to fly because I still want to make people get excited to see what is he going to do this time. Is he gonna spring off the rope and hit his DDT? Is he going to fly over the top? With his dive, is he going to do? What? I wanted to keep people guessing at all times, and I feel like I've been doing a pretty good job at that recently.
Absolutely, and I also appreciate, by the way, you doing the tornado twist. I was like, because it was reminding me, we were talking about WCW. I haven't seen that since like Hector Garza in WCW, and I was like, I love that move. I was like, why don't more people do that? And then I saw you do it, and I was like, well, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's because people probably can't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It takes a lot of rotation on that.
Yeah, I love it, and because a lot, and I'm not saying people. I don't want to say people can't do it because I'm sure there are talented guys that can do it. For me, I see everybody do the topes. I see everybody do the somersault over or the Fosbury flop, and I want my dive. When I usually do it, it's different. You're not going to see anybody else on the card do it. I've never been on a card where somebody does the same dive as me, ever. And I've been doing this dive for about 4 years now, or 3.5 years now. And for me, it's like, okay, this is something that's me. I can do it. I don't have to, hey guys, hey, what kind of dive you doing? I never have to ask, hey bro, are you going to do it? Because I know that mine is different all the time. And it's just something that I love to put out there and people to see, because it's a different dive. The first match is a suicide and people react, and then they see me do that. It's like, oh, whoa, and that's the kind of energy I want to bring.
Absolutely. And of course you do your tornado DDT is a modified version, a lot more high flying. You jump off the top rope and do the complete spin in midair. So I can tell definitely you're a guy that tries to innovate what you're doing. If I may say, and hopefully it's a compliment, you remind me a lot of the way Will Ospreay works.
Yeah. That is a huge compliment. I mean, Will Ospreay is one of the best in the world right now. And when I was wrestling in New Japan, I did I didn't put two and two together, but I just, one of my moves was I do a leapfrog and then I backflip over the guy. And then when I went to the back, somebody, hey, that reminded me of Will Ospreay, except he might get a little bit higher than you though. And I was like, yeah, he probably does get higher than me. I was like, but you're right, so there have been people saying certain things that I do remind them of Will Ospreay or Ricochet. And I'm just, those are the kind of compliments that make me feel like awesome. I know I'm trying to get to their level and it's a lot of work and a lot of time, but it feels good just getting a little bit of like a, pat on the back when somebody says something like that. So thank you very much.
Oh, of course. And I definitely see also the cruiserweight influence and all that stuff. So you've actually done, you went to work the Crash Lucha, correct?
Yes. That was my first international debut, was with the Crash. Conan had brought me in and it was dope.
So what was it like working Lucha in California versus working Lucha in Mexico?
Well, when I made my debut for the Crash, I wrestled DJ Douglas James, and so we wrestled more of an American style, and we opened the show. Okay. But the times that I went back after that, I was like teaming with Christy Janes against like, Lady Flamer and another luchador, and being able to translate the Spanish back. My Spanish isn't the best, but being able to be there and be like, okay, we're gonna, blah 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 blah. It's very different. There are certain things I don't like that they do out there. I feel like some of them, there isn't much selling, and like they kind of like they potter out and kind of just sit on the apron and wait to come back in. So as opposed to out here, we're taught very much to sell when we take something and stuff like that. And so, but it was fun, and then I went back to Tijuana for AAA, and I got to wrestle some of those guys out there, and having even been in the ring with guys like Penta and Phoenix and Flamita and Ray Horace, like some of the best luchadors that came out from over there, and wrestling with them, I learned so much, and they were able to break down moves and tell me how to say it in Spanish so that I could tell the other guys. And I just have fun, man. I'm all about wrestling new people, especially when I get a chance to step in with some of the greats, whatever their style is. I try to I don't want to say go to their level, but I try to like wrestle that kind of a match so I can learn it and just add that little bit of a golden nugget into my toolbox, So
yeah, it almost bums me out that they team up together, because Ray Phoenix and Pentagon are so good. I'm just kind of like wish they were just solo guys, just because I think they're both amazing. So I'm like, they're so good.
Yeah, and honestly, man, like I've been in the locker room with them a lot. I've hung out with them a lot in shows, and like awesome guys. Phoenix that's my boy. I really love that dude. We kind of sit and we talk about a lot of stuff in life, and he's a great guy, man. He's one of my favorite people.
Yeah, he's super underrated, even though he's highly rated. He's that good. I think he's that good. Yeah. So what about as far as like the crowd, working the crowd in Mexico versus working the crowd here? I know lucha crowds can be a little rambunctious.
Yes, and I made the poor decision or the right decision on my debut to come out with a big giant Puerto Rican flag with the New York City vibe, and they hated it, but they loved me, and I love it. I love how involved they are and how much they believe. And like I told I told myself, I was like, man, the first time I wrestled in the Crash, it was sold out. The main event had Rey Mysterio on it, it had Phoenix, it had Penta, it had Lince Dorado on it. Was another one of my homies, great dude. It had Willie Mack. It had all these awesome guys, Flamita. But it was a huge card, and we were opening the show, and I was like, sold out. And it had El Santo was there, and Hijo de Santo was wrestling on the card that day as well. Wow. And I was like, this is like a huge show.
You're like, no pressure, just
no pressure. We're opening, like. But it was like, wow, like Conan believed in me because he saw me wrestle in San Diego to put me in this spot and this show. And it felt like a WrestleMania moment. Like if I never wrestle again, I will be satisfied with feeling this energy. That's Fortunate enough, I've been able to wrestle there over and over and over and over again over the last few years, and I'm thankful for that. And then even with AAA as well, Conan brought me over to AAA, and so it's amazing, man. It feels so good.
Yeah. So I believe you also did a couple things with WWE.
I did.
So I'm curious about that. Not necessarily, the more like, what was it like to meet the superstars? But I'm more curious about like the minutia of it. Like, how do you find out like who gets in contact with you? How do you know like, okay, like how far in advance do you know when you're going to be available for something like this? Like, what is the day like when you get there?
So I found out ahead of time. I was able to go get my paperwork done and stuff like that. And when I got there, like I was like the first time I did it, I was like a little nervous. You want to dress for success and you want to be professional at all times. You want to make it feel like you belong there. Because obviously like you want to belong there. So it was awesome, man. Everybody was real professional, real cool, and getting to sit down and talk to some of these guys that I grew up watching, and then some of the guys that are on there right now doing their best. Like, it just felt good, And actually, the first time I did it, I actually got to do a tryout match on the show, and this was like the most nerve-wracking match of my life. I wrestled some guy. It was in Texas. I didn't know anybody there except Christy James, and who's like one of my best friends, and I wrestled one of these guys from Texas I never wrestled before. And at the ring, it was like Shane McMahon, Drew McIntyre, Aleister Black, Randy Orton, Dolph Ziggler, Hurricane Helms, like all these like guys, and like Alexa Bliss, and I think she was the women's champion at the time, or Charlotte was. Charlotte was there as well. Like literally everybody was like at ringside stretching, talking about whatever they talk about, and watching us wrestle. And it was quiet. And I did a very good job. And after the tryout, Alexa Bliss had called me over, and she brought me to one of the agents. She was like, okay, let's use him for the coffee spot. And I was like, all right, cool. And then when they told me what they wanted to do with the coffee, I was like, oh, I can easily act this out. Like, this is just me. I'll just pretend it's a role on a film, And like, I went out there with the coffee, and then when they smacked the cup at me, I kind of like, so they're like, oh shit, And then I don't know they must have liked it a lot, because then they came and grabbed me. It was like, okay, we want to use you for Goldberg now. And there were some guys that were just there that didn't get used at all. And I'm like, I was like, hey, I just did the coffee. It's the same face. Like, we don't care. We want to use you again. And they put me in the front of Goldberg's security. And so nice. I did the Goldberg security. And that was like an awesome moment, just being able to like, oh shit, this is Goldberg, like he's the guy I grew up watching coming out and like destroying everybody. So that was dope. And then the next time I came back, I got to do the whole Kevin Owens spot, and that was pretty cool. And just when you get there, you just want to be professional. You want to make sure that you're presentable, that you have your stuff, you're ready to go. You want to be noticed, and you want people to see you for the right reasons. I feel like, I'm not going to mention nobody, but I've been a few times, and like some of these guys, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, do you not understand where you're at? That literally everybody's watching you, even though you don't think they're watching you. Mm-hmm. And you're saying these things and acting these way, like you're showing them you don't belong here, And so I had fun with it, man. And I had a really good conversation with Randy Orton, who's one of my favorites ever. And he obviously has the Marine Corps background and stuff like that. And I had I had just got out of the Marine Corps, and I talked to Randy Orton for like 7 minutes, and he doesn't have to give me 7 minutes, you know. And I'm not trying to say, oh, his status, he's this and that, he's a superstar, he doesn't need to talk. No, it's not about that. It's the fact that he had a match that night. It was a big match he was getting ready for, and he took 7 minutes out of his time, and it was just me and him one-on-one, and we just talked about the Marine Corps. And I told him, okay, look, you know, I was a staff sergeant, I was a drill instructor, and he gave me that respect. He's like, oh shit, like you did that? I was like, yeah, I did XYZ, blah blah blah. We talked about all of this, and he said, what's your name? And I was like, Danny. He's like, okay, cool, nice to meet you, blah blah blah. And we kept talking a little bit more. The next time he saw me, which was, it was a Friday Night SmackDown, we met. Then we had the Monday, it was Hell in a Cell, and then Monday Night Raw. And Monday Night Raw, we walked past. He's like, hey Danny, what's up? He meets, I don't know how many fucking, you know, guys that come out there all the time.
Yeah.
And the fact that we made that connection, like the military, this and that, the respect, I didn't act like a fucking fanboy or nothing like that. We talked like men about real shit. He gave me his advice. He told me what he thought. And then he acknowledged me the next time he saw me. Like, hey, Danny, what's up? And we shook hands. And like, good, yeah, I'm good, man. You know, good luck tonight, blah, blah, blah. That's it. And that to me alone, like, man, that felt like good, you know? Like, and I feel like when people go to these events and stuff like that, and they have these opportunities with WWE, or when I did the work with Impact, or, you know, whatever, you have to show that you belong there. And so many people don't understand that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's you know, you had the discipline, so maybe they didn't never learn discipline anywhere. So
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, but don't get me wrong. Like, I know how to have fun. I know how to be wild and crazy, course. You know, but like there's a time and place, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe not when you're in a ring surrounded by some of the biggest stars in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the best time. So when you're working different venues, you know, you're going from like these big venues in Mexico. You're doing like, I've seen like the Fist Pro, where you're doing like a bar basically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you adjust, you know, your psychology, your crowd work? Like, how do you adjust to the level of crowd, or how drunk maybe the crowd is around you?
Honestly, I don't care if I'm wrestling in front of 10 people or 5,000 people. They're going to get 100% of Danny Limelight every time. And some people are like, man, why are you doing that dive here? There's only like 20 people here. Nobody, you know, like, you're going to hurt yourself for 20 people? Like, no, first of all, I don't want to hurt myself, but these 20 people paid their ticket, paid their money to come see the show. They know Danny Limelight's on the card. Why am I going to treat it any less and give less of a performance because you feel like there's not enough people here for you to entertain? There could be one person in the show, could be one little kid, and I'm going to do my DDT. I'm going to fly over the top rope because that one kid paid his ticket, and he should be able to see how awesome I can be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't care if I'm wrestling in a big venue or a smaller venue. I'm going to give my all every time. Now, obviously, certain things don't make sense in certain shows. You know, like I'm not going to run off a beam and do a backflip onto somebody, you know, in an Impact ring as if I would if I was wrestling at a bar, you know? Like,
yeah.
There are certain things that I change, you know. I still try to not curse. Sometimes it slips out, but I try to not curse. But in the bar, you know, the fans are cursing at you and they want you to talk shit back. So I'll give a little more aggression on the talking shit back to the fans. But if I was in an arena full of kids mostly, then I'm not going to curse, you know? Or when I'm doing the SpiderMan, when I was doing the SpiderMan gimmick where each of my tights were different suits from some of my favorite Spider-Man comic books, you know, if I'm wrestling at a bar, I'm wearing the symbiote, the black spider. So they know, okay, he's coming out with the black. He's going to be more aggressive. He's going to talk shit because he's symbiote now, you know, like, but if I put on the Spider-Man 99 or the Future Foundation or the Amazing Spider-Man, okay, you know, he's coming out. He's the good guy here, you know, and that's just the kind of stuff that I used to try to tailor it to.
And as far as psychology in the ring goes, when you first started out, was that something you even had a thought about before you started training? Or did, like, when you joined, were you like, oh, wait, like I'm telling a story here. This is a completely different thing than I thought.
That was one of the, I still have, that was one of the hardest things I had to figure out and understand. And I think that everybody goes through that. You want to go out there and, you want to go out there and show your stuff, you know, or they say blow your wad or whatever little catchy catchphrase they have. You want to go out there and do it, but understanding what makes sense, where to do what, where to put what, you know, how to tell the story. I think that was the hardest thing for me to grasp. And I'm still learning. I believe everybody should be an eternal student, a student of the game. You're forever learning. You should never cut it off. But I feel like I've gotten a lot better at that. And for me, it took a lot of matches, like big matches with guys like TJ Perkins, you know, matches with guys like Phoenix, matches with guys like Cholo or Mariachi Loco, or, you know, even Chris Bay has helped me a lot, like understanding where to put things at. Chris Bay, shout out to Chris Bay, man. That's my homie.
Chris Bay's a
Awesome
good dude.
Yeah, I
Chris
love
Bay's a
that
good
man,
dude.
dude. He's great, and then sitting down and talking to guys like Sandow and Morrison, like, what do you think of this? Does it make sense? And then Morrison was like, you could do that in a match with me because we will make it flow right. That would make sense, blah, 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 because of our backgrounds. But in a match with this person, it won't make sense. And even after New Japan, Sandow, or excuse me, he's not going by Sandow anymore, obviously. But Aaron, he was in the back watching. He was like, I really like your stuff, da 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 da. Like, why did you do this and this? And I was like, yeah, I did this and this because of X, Y, Z. He said, okay, this probably will work here, but it won't work there, and this kind of an atmosphere. But you're in New Japan, so that makes sense to do that kind of a thing here, and it's just it's being an eternal student and asking people, hey, did you see my match? Another person in my opinion, one of the most underrated wrestlers in SoCal, who, awesome dude, great guy. If he's in the locker room, I always ask him to watch my match and tell me what he thinks, is Ryan Taylor. And he was at the New Japan Collision with me as well. And I always ask, what do you think of this? Oh, I think, and he gives me his honest feedback. And I love his critique. And it's always heartfelt and true and genuine. And we need more people like Ryan Taylor. We need more people like TJP, who after you wrestle him, he stops you and he's like, blah, 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 blah. And he spits out all this knowledge. You're like, holy shit, And then he still talks good about you, but you did this, like, those are the people we want. That's going to like make you feel, okay, I'm learning when I'm in the ring with them. You want to learn when you're in the ring with them, so that way when their time has come and gone and now you're in their place and you're wrestling the new guys, you can bring that knowledge to them. You can help them. You can do these kind of things, And I just started getting that feeling, shout out to Ice Williams. I had a fire match with Ice Williams, and he's a great athlete. He's great, but he went in there, hey, what do you want to do? What do you think about this? Like, asking me these questions, expecting me to have the answers. Oh, hey, let's do this and this. Oh, let's put this here. And because I was able to learn from other people, I was able to give some kind of guidance, and he come with his ideas, and we put it together, and we put on a good match. And that's what it's about, man. Passing the knowledge on to the future.
Yeah, that is a good match. Everyone who's watching or listening to this, look that up on YouTube. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as far as you mentioned, everyone kind of collaborating, talking about giving critiques, what is it about the business though? Because I've been around it a lot. I helped do websites, photography, video, a lot for a lot of indie promotions up here in Northern California. But what is it about the business that gets some people that just feel the need to bury other people though? Like they feel the need to, like, they're afraid like no one's going to come up on their mountain, or if they do, they're going to steal their spot. Like, why is that? What do you think? What do you think that is? The reason for that is?
I would say insecurities. Maybe they feel like this guy is going to take their spot. This guy is going to be the next guy, or whatever the case may be. I think it's insecurities. I think it speaks more on who they are. You will never find me. You could look through my social media. You could scroll to early Danny Limelight. I would never talk shit on somebody, talk down on anybody. I've never been that way as a man. I've never been a hater. I've always been a real dude. And I always speak my mind how it is, but I would not belittle somebody. I would just look at them. If I feel like, I kick no, okay. Oh, he got signed? Why did he get signed? What did he do to get signed? And why am I not signed? Okay, he did this and this. Okay, that means I need to do X, Y, Z. I need to work harder to get there. Okay, I'm climbing the ladder. This person doesn't want me, doesn't want to put you over, doesn't want to, give you the rub, whatever. That's okay. The next person will. Like I've never been that way. And that's because I'm not a hater. I'm not insecure about anything. Everything I do in life, I'm confident as fuck. And that's why it rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but I don't care. I'm not going to change who I am. And I feel like the people that are like that are the wrong type of people. They're there now, but the same people you see on your way up are the same people you're going to see like on your way down. And that's something I always remember.
Yeah. I mean, and not to hate on anyone, but the fact is 90% of these dudes in wrestling are going to end up in a convention center with a fanny pack on, hawking 8x10s. Like, it's going to happen. Like, it's going to happen. So, speaking a little bit more on what we were talking about earlier with Ray Phoenix, Pentagon. I mean, you always made it no secret that you'd love to go WWE. You've had tryouts to WWE. But what do you think about the current product with like stuff like AEW, WWE, Impact, MLW? There's a whole lot of stuff now going on. And where do you see yourself fitting in pretty easily?
I had a wonderful time at New Japan, man. I had a really good time. The guys there were awesome. You know, I like Rocky a lot. I trust Rocky, and I don't trust a lot of people.
Mhm.
Um, I like the chemistry. I feel like that's somewhere where I can start. That's somewhere I can really, really showcase what I can do and get that buzz going for me that I need to get to where the next step would be for me. I know a lot of people at AEW, a lot of my friends out there. I think that would be cool. I think it would be, and even I mean, I don't really, I haven't really watched a lot of MLW. I don't see myself signing with MLW. Nothing against them. I just don't. I don't really think that. I love NWA. I think it's awesome. I just don't see myself fitting into that world either. I think I'm very,
It's a very specific style, NWA.
yeah, in NWA, and I don't think that that would be the best suit for me. But if an opportunity came across my desk, I would definitely take it serious. I would not. I would never pass on WWE, obviously. And even Impact. I feel like Impact, like their X division, would be a good place for me to also generate that kind of fire, that buzz that I need. That's why my boy Chris Bay went over there. I
Mhm.
would love to get in the ring with Chris Bay again. I would love to get in the ring with Ace Austin again. Like some of those guys are awesome, and I feel like I would be a good fit there as well. But right now, if I had to pick a place to be, I really like the way it felt being in a New Japan ring, and it's something I never thought I would want to do.
Yeah.
I never knew it existed, and it's something that I never thought I would have an opportunity to do. And now that I did, I want to take full advantage of that.
Yeah, and of course, the opportunity, should it come to actually go and wrestle in Japan, would be a completely different.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, actually, on wrestling in other countries, have you gone and wrestled in Puerto Rico?
I've never even been to Puerto Rico.
Really?
I bought my ticket to go in 2017, and then the hurricane hit, and I was like, I want to go when I'm able to enjoy it. I've never wrestled in any other country other than the United States or Mexico.
Okay.
So
Well,
I'm all for going to Puerto Rico. I'm all for going to the UK, Canada. I want to go everywhere. Japan is just waiting for the opportunities to come.
Well, a buddy of mine, he wrestled he wrestled in Puerto Rico and he wrestled in Japan. Rest in peace. His name is Bison Smith. Awesome wrestler, great dude. Taken from us too early, but he always told me that he loved wrestling in Puerto Rico and he loved wrestling in Japan. So I hope you get that opportunity because that would be pretty dope.
Hopefully, I just did an interview with a Puerto Rican podcast crew, and I was telling them I want to get out there to let their people know. I just want to go see my culture first and foremost. I'm out here in the city, in the States, representing Puerto Rico and New York. I'm a New Yorican,
Yeah.
Just like Santana and Ortiz. That's who I am. That's where I'm from. But
well, if they want to break away from the inner circle, I don't mind 2020 Los Boricuas, except in AEW. There you go.
It's all God's plan. Whatever will come, will come. What's for you can't be taken for you, bro.
Exactly. All right, brother. The time has come. We've gone too long. The booker is running out and he's pissed and he's screaming to take it home. The ref is yelling. So we got some rapid fire stuff here at the ends, and we'll close it off. Number 1, favorite move or hold that you don't use.
Favorite move or hold that I don't use: the figure 4 leg lock.
Figure 4 leg lock. Okay. What's the craziest fan interaction you have besides the guy who you got into it with?
The craziest fan interaction I ever had was a fan sliding into my DMs after a show. I don't even know how she found my stuff, but she messaged me and was trying to hook up and stuff like that. Didn't happen though. Didn't happen.
Okay. When you're working with someone for the first time, besides trying to hurt you, what's the worst thing they could do in a match?
Just be disrespectful, not listen, not want to work,
All right. When's the last time you were legitimately surprised by a worker in the ring?
Ooh, the last time I was legitimately surprised by a worker in the ring was when I wrestled Ice Williams. A lot of people was talking about how good he is for how young he's been in the ring and how new he was, and he actually came out and I was like, oh, we were going. If you saw the match, it was a very fast paced, really, really good match, and he impressed me. He wowed me.
Very nice. Has a booker ever tried to stiff you on money?
Oh, all the time. All the time. When I first started, it was the worst. Now I don't accept that shit.
Well, how do they try to skirt around it?
The door was light, or hey, I'll PayPal you in a couple weeks, or we can only pay you this much. One time I went to Arizona, to wrestle in Arizona. I was supposed to get paid X amount of dollars. I got into a car accident on the way to Arizona, wrecked my Camaro, still went to the show, wrestled, and he tried to short me $40. He lost his fucking mind. I took all the money that fucking he was supposed to pay me and some. to pay for costs for the car.
Just love the kind of people wrestling drags in.
The worst.
What's the hardest you've laughed at an indie show?
Whew. Pretty hard. Well, actually, I watched one match and I just laughed. And I wasn't laughing to be a dick. It was just, yeah, I don't want to. It was bad.
It was just bad.
And it's because before that, these guys were talking about, this right here will stop for a minute. We'll get the good chance. Da 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 da. Like they had like the chance planned out. They had everything planned out, and it was just, it was bad.
I've had that experience where I used to do open mic stand-up comedy. Yeah. And it was always the dudes, because the comics usually get there before the place opens up, and it was always the dudes who were like super overconfident that bomb the worst. You just see it, you're like, dude.
Another good laugh I had was I was at a show with Tito, Che, and Ray Rosas, and we were just clowning in the back. Everybody was getting clowned on, and it was just so much fun. That was another good laugh.
Out of all your travels, going to different parts of the country, what's the worst gimmick you've seen?
Oh shit. There was I did an Evolve tryout in New York, and there was this guy who was playing a zombie, but like not like a zombie, but like a monster, where like he came into the ring and then he had to like be activated as a monster. It was almost like Festus from back in the day, but as a monster. And then he was trying to do like Hurricane Ranas and like all these stuff. And he was like 6'7", and it was bad, really, really bad.
Now, not naming any names, but any former WWE, WCW, ECW, whatever guys that you've worked on a show with that thought they were way better than the show?
No, I fortunately have never had that issue. And I've been on a show with a lot of those guys, and they were all been super, super cool, man.
Very nice. So this is kind of the touchy-feely question of this. Your pure joy in wrestling, the thing that, whether it's before the match, during the match, after the match, the thing that gives you goosebumps, the thing that you're like, this is why I fucking love this business. This is why I do this.
First and foremost, it's when my music hits, and I just feel the electricity come up my body, and it's like, okay, here I go, and I get myself in that mentality, and then I go out there and I wrestle, and then when the fans start reacting, they start clapping. We have that fire match, and we get the "This is awesome" chants or whatever kind of chants they want to chant. And then after the match, or during intermission, if I'm before intermission, when they come up to me, that was a really good match, man, blah, 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 blah. And they start complimenting me or following me on social media, or when they message me, hey, I just watched this match on YouTube. It's just a fan interaction. The first thing that sets it off for me, that puts me in the mindset, is when my music hits, but it's the fan interaction afterwards. I never have ever forgot where I started, where I came from. I never, ever sunned a fan, made a fan feel less than what they're worth, unless they were disrespectful. And yeah, it's just that fan interaction that makes me feel great, man.
I imagine it must be like a huge feeling of like validation. You're like, I worked hard, I put together this thing, and like,
or even when like the fans, like even when the fans follow you and they see you doing other things in life, and they're like, oh wow, I had no idea you did stunts or you acted. I just watched your film. Or they come see me at the show, like, hey, I watched that one film you posted. It was awesome, man. I really enjoyed it. You should do another one. Like that kind of stuff, because the fans care about the wrestlers. They really do. I feel like they really, really love us. We entertain them, and they love that feeling they get from watching us. And I feel like, why would I treat them less than human being? Because they're a fan? Without them, I'm shit without them. So
I feel like the days of, these fucking marks, I feel like that day is kind of gone. Yeah. I feel like that's kind of a remnant.
I've never even said that about a fan. Oh, that's fucking Mark. Yeah. I was one of the first people to ever get inside of the hot tub. I was part of the first hot tub show that they actually got in the hot tub. With the hot tub guy, it was me, Eli, DJ, and Biagio, and everybody was like, why the fuck are you in the hot tub with that Mark? Blah, blah, blah. He's a fan, and he's a fucking cool person. He loves wrestling, and he wanted us to be a part of his show. So why would I not do it? Yeah. I don't know. I never understood that shit.
And to cap it all off, any other pranks or embarrassing stories you can remember?
Pranks or embarrassing stories. I was driving back from Arizona. with Big Duke, who he doesn't really wrestle anymore, and Seville, Gino Rivera. We were tag teaming. And we were talking to Duke, don't worry, bro, we're going to stay up. We'll talk to you, blah, blah. It's a long ride back, blah, 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 blah. We got you. And like 10 minutes into the drive, we were like knocked out in the car. like mouth wide open, like out, and like Duke took a picture of me and Gino and was like, look at it, and put it on Facebook, and we were like passed out, knocked out. Like he's like, wow, great road buddies and stuff like that. So that was pretty embarrassing. Crazy story. One time I was driving home from a show late as hell, and I fell asleep on the road. And like I woke up in the middle of like an intersection with the lights red and stuff like that. Luckily there was no cars, but I was like, I woke up and I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't even know where I was. And it was like in the middle of an intersection. I was like, oh shit. And I just had to like turn the car and drive out. That was
Oh, wow.
crazy. Yeah.
Well, it's about the time to end it now. Please give all your social, all the stuff we can follow you at. We can check out, your film stuff as well as your wrestling stuff.
Hey guys, first of all, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for having me on this show. You can catch me on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok at Danny Limelight. And you can find me on prowrestlingtees.com/Danny Limelight. And for all my films and stuff like that, I post them on YouTube. You can just look up Danny Limelight and stuff will pop up, or Instagram as well. I'm not hard to find. And if you want to email me for podcasts or questions or whatever, I'm easy to reach at DannyLimelight@gmail.com, or slide in those DMs.
But not the way that one girl did.
No, definitely not that way.
Thanks again. I appreciate it. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you, bro.